as a business person, a failure as a woman, a failure as a wife, and now a failure as a mum because my son didn't ask to be brought into that world.
I'm going to win in this situation. This is going to be good for me. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know where this is going. I don't know why it's happening to me, but I'm going to be the winner in this situation.
There are people that can read a book in a weekend and become...
Welcome, Angela, to Villa 58. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much. I'm pleased to be here.
So Angela, I want to start right from the beginning. You were born and raised in Scotland. What was life like growing up?
Well, we grew up in a place where we didn't really know anyone who was successful. We didn't know anyone with businesses or money. And I came from, I don't want to say a poor family, but we definitely weren't spoiled. We had to wait for things. Gifts were purely for Christmas and birthday. But I was very lucky. I had a very happy childhood, lots of friends and lots of outdoor time. So yeah, I was very lucky, but definitely not a place where I felt inspired as a child.
So what were you taught about money growing up?
Oh my goodness. We actually grew up hearing that, money doesn't make you happy. If you want more money, you have to work really hard for it. I think there was a big belief system around it definitely doesn't come easy. It's not a normal thing. And my family definitely didn't know anyone with money. And so that became my belief system that it wasn't for the likes of us. I remember telling myself that as a child. And I must have heard that somewhere, but that was definitely my belief system. Money's not for the likes of us. It's only for certain people. It's only for people who are well educated. It's only for people who have a great start in life. And so I suppose I didn't have a very good relationship with money. I just believed that it was never going to be for me. I was never going to have enough money. And so I suppose my goal back then was just to try and be good in school and get a job and pay for the things that I needed to pay for. But yeah, it definitely wasn't a positive mindset around money, I wouldn't say.
I find that so fascinating because in East London, where I grew up, we had a similar mindset.
Yeah.
That if somebody did get something like maybe a nice car, or even if they managed to get the double glazing put on into their house, it was like, he must be doing some kind of benefit fraud or some kind of fraudulent activity.
Definitely.
And it's insane how much negativity was around doing well.
Definitely. My gran actually used to always say that people with money were bad people because she didn't actually understand that you could make money through being entrepreneurial or successful. The only people we knew that had money were people that were making it fraudulently, like you say. So, and I was speaking to someone the other day who had a very similar upbringing to me, and he has built a very successful business. He's done exceptionally well, and he managed to get himself a very, very nice car. And he was in having dinner with his partner, and he came out and there was people with a key who wanted to damage it. And he said that he used to get things like that all the time. And so I think that there is this perception that people who have money are not very nice people, they're not kind people. And I honestly believe that money amplifies who you already are. I think if you're a kind person, money's going to make you even kinder. And if you're not, then I think it will amplify your personality traits. And so I don't think it's this thing that when you have money, you become a certain person. I think it just amplifies your personality traits. And that's definitely something that I've learned along the way.
I love what you just said that, because I have a similar belief as well, that money just reflects what's already in your heart.
Of course.
So if you're a bad person, then you're going to do bad things with your money. And if you're a good person, then you're only going to go and improve the lives of others.
Absolutely.
And my community goodness, looking back, they took it one step forward where they would associate poverty with piety. So it's like, did you see that boy? He was such a good boy. And then he got into money, and then drugs started and gambling started, and he started drinking alcohol. So therefore, simple conclusion, money equals, it makes you bad.
Yeah, it does.
It's a simplistic way of looking at it. But it influenced me, that thinking did.
It does influence you, I think, because I think it keeps you playing a bit smaller, or when you do achieve things, you tend to keep them quiet because you don't want to be perceived as someone who's made some money. Or the thing that I used to hear all the time was, they think they're better than everyone else. And I used to always think, no, you think that they think they're better. It's not that they actually think that. And I think there is this perception when people are living a bit more comfortably that they think they're better than everyone else. And I know, coming back to the personality traits, I know some of the most wealthiest people who are the kindest people on the planet. I know some of the poorest people who are the kindest people on the planet. And so it comes back to that reflection on the personality traits that it absolutely does. And I'm sure you know people like that as well. Money doesn't really come into it.
No, it just shows who you are. Your true colours, either in a positive light or in a negative light. But it's insane how much these early childhood scripts still play out, because I moved to Dubai over 15 years ago. And I remember going to nice restaurants, having staycations, just doing the things that people do in Dubai, and feeling so uncomfortable, like I don't belong here. And then there was discomfort, there was guilt, and only now I'm beginning to unpack that why was I feeling so uncomfortable around this world that I felt I didn't belong in, because growing up in East London, it didn't look like that. So it's almost like I was doing something wrong. So like what you just said, you would people would hide it or like not share it, because there's this element of, am I doing something wrong? Am I going to get into trouble?
Exactly. And I think when you get to a point where you start doing well, and then I'm not sure if guilt is the right word, but I think there's definitely a lot of reflection there of, you're so grateful, but why do I get to be this lucky? Why do I get to live this life? Why do I get to live so comfortably? And, it's not always been like that for me. I'm sure we'll come on to that, but I know why I'm here. I've definitely worked very, very hard for where I am today. And I know that it has a ripple effect because I use that to help other people. And so I need to check myself, but you're absolutely right. It comes from those childhood memories and the things that you hear and grow up with that, you should stay within your means and don't get too big for your boots and remember where you came from. And I absolutely remember where I came from. I love where I came from. I have a soft spot, for the place that I grew up. I'll never forget, but I don't think that should stop you from wanting to aspire to be more and achieve more and reach new heights. I think there's so much enjoyment in it for the right people.
I agree. So, Angela, you were the first in your family to get a qualification. Tell me about that.
I think, I was definitely encouraged to, you have to do something. It was never an option that you leave school and you see what happens or see what opportunities come. You have to go out and get those opportunities. And so I went to college and I just loved children. I loved to be around them, and never know why. I look back and I think they injected a lot of fun and creativity into my life. I loved, the spontaneous feelings that children had, and it was just so much fun, So, I remember this being quite a big deal when I got my first job in childcare. I was only 21 and I secured a role in a council nursery. So, and it's very interesting because whilst that was massively celebrated in my family, and I remember my mum, she was so proud and she told everyone about, how I was qualified and where I'd got this role. And actually what I became congratulated on was, how lucky are you? You actually have a job now where you get paid for 7 weeks of the summer and you don't have to go to work. Like, this is amazing. And I thought, how weird is that that's what people are congratulating me on? And I think that's a lot of the lower level mindset. It's like, get paid for doing as little as possible. If you're going to get paid for 7 weeks where you don't have to go to work, like, that's an achievement. And so it's funny that that's what I got congratulated on. But it felt great. I felt like I had achieved a lot because my family were so proud of me. But I just knew there was more. I knew that this was not going to be me for the next, 30, 40 years. And I worked with a lot of women who had been in the industry for 30 years. And I heard a lot of things like, that's not how we do things here. This is the way that we've done it for 30 years. We're not going to change it now. And so even in that industry, there was a lot of playing small and staying stagnant. And I can understand why I probably wasn't liked very much. I was this full of energy 21-year-old who came in the summer holidays to get prepped for the children coming back. And one of the women who worked there said, you're making us look bad. you can't come in here in summer. You know, this is not what we do. I don't get paid enough to come in summer and you're making us look bad. And so it really planted a seed with me because I thought, how sad, you know, to live life like that where you do the bare minimum and, you know, you don't enjoy the journey. So I think even having that qualification and that job definitely planted some seeds in that, where am I going here? What do I really want out of life? And how can I enjoy this journey? I think that was a lot of thoughts in my head at that time.
It's interesting what you said about your colleague saying to you, you're making us look bad. Because I had a previous guest who was a teacher as well, and she talked about how hard she worked. But instead of that being celebrated, her principal said to her, you're making us look bad.
Wow.
Your numbers, your data, the results the kids are getting is making us look bad. And I just think when somebody's world is like small, they're only comfortable if they kind of like make somebody else's world small as well.
So true. Do you know, it was funny, I had a situation that I shared on social media a few weeks ago, and it was a Sunday. I played paddle on a Sunday morning, and as I was leaving, one of the women said, what's your plans for today? And I said, I have a 2-hour meeting this afternoon. And she said, how? Why did that happen? And I said, because I put it there. I put it in the diary. I want to do it. And I suddenly realised people have an opinion like that based on their own experiences and their own mindset. And so I think that's potentially, maybe she's been in a corporate role for 30 years that she doesn't enjoy. And so Friday comes and it's switch off time and she doesn't think about it. Whereas I'm in a role where I just want to do it all the time. And so this was something that I was really looking forward to on a Sunday. And if someone else had said to me, I have a really important meeting on a Sunday afternoon, my response would have been, what's it about? Like, what's today around? And so I think we base those opinions on our own experiences, don't we?
We project so much. And it's taken me such a long time to realize that funny comment, that slight, that criticism isn't about you.
Yeah.
It's something they might haven't resolved in their own selves yet.
So true.
Or they're battling with. But it's taken me a long time not to take things personally.
Absolutely. It's tough, isn't it? Because there's a lot of people that don't like growth, you know, to see you move to a different country or start the business or, you know, go away and have an amazing holiday experience. It's like people don't like it. And I think it is a reminder of what are they not doing or how do they feel in themselves. So I think you're absolutely right, but that definitely takes time to navigate and learn, doesn't it?
Yeah. So you mentioned about your family was very supportive and they celebrated your achievement. Sometimes though I feel when, even in the cases where you are celebrated, when you do things which are against the norm, perhaps that might be a job overseas.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a holiday that people don't go to. It's something that's against the grain.
Yep.
Sometimes there isn't always celebration, and sometimes individually it can feel even like guilt, like you're doing something wrong because somebody has made you feel that you're doing something wrong. And I say this because I watched the Gordon Ramsay docu-series on Netflix. Did you watch
I loved it.
And did you see that bit when he shared that his father refused to dine in any of his restaurants?
Yeah.
And he would say things like, "You've gone posh now."
How sad. It's so sad, isn't it? And I do see a lot of that happening. I loved that documentary. I thought it was fantastic. And I think it just shows, you know, I think there is this perception when you become so successful, like Gordon Ramsay, you know, he'll probably hear things like, it's all right for you, you know, you don't have to worry about these things. And he worked really, really hard to get there. He took huge risks. He invested a lot of his own money. And he's at a level now where he's still making big decisions. He's carrying a lot of pressure, but it's high level. But people assume when you get to that point that you're sitting with a book on the beach and you have all this money rolling into your bank account. And it's absolutely not like that. But you mentioned the word guilt there. I don't think I've ever felt guilty, but I've definitely questioned myself. I've definitely questioned, you know, am I doing the right thing? And coming back to the childhood memories, you know, people like us aren't meant for businesses. We aren't meant for money. And so I did question myself quite a lot. Am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? I did feel like I was breaking the mold, but there was definitely a lot of questioning around that. And I think you feel isolated because you feel very different to what you know. And suddenly you don't fit into the regular family conversations anymore because your mind's on, you know, the latest book that you've read or the podcast that you've listened to. And people are talking about the neighbours and what's happening at the school gates. And so I think you start to grow out of that. So I definitely felt quite isolated and wondered who I was and where I fitted in quite often. But I didn't feel guilt. It's an interesting emotion, but yeah, I definitely feel other things.
It's lonely for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel in a way your world becomes smaller in a strange kind of way. Like you meet so many interesting people, but then the old people become less influential in your lives.
Yeah, I think on the business journey, I think there's a natural element of self-development, isn't there, where you want to get better, you know, you become more resilient, you experience challenges and setbacks, and there's a lot of people that don't understand that if they're not on the same journey as you. And so I think that's when it becomes quite lonely, because who do you have those conversations with? Because you have business associates, I certainly did, but no one that I would class as friends, no one that I trusted enough to confide in and have those conversations. And then your friends from school don't understand it, because when you're with them, it's just, oh, it's all right for you, you know, you'll be leaving us behind soon. And it's like, how can you have those conversations that you are second guessing yourself, that you have a client that you are carrying a lot of pressure around at the moment, or you have employees where you feel that overwhelming sense of responsibility. There's not many people that understand that. And so I think you go even more inwards, and it does feel very, very lonely. And I think that's why for me, I threw myself into books and podcasts, because I was that person in the car listening to a podcast, driving along, nodding, you know, as if I was there having the conversation. I was like, yes, this person gets it. He understands. And I think that's what you crave. You crave someone to say, I get it. I've been there. I'm going through that. You know, this is how I navigated this situation. It's like a breath of fresh air. So I think it can be very, very lonely.
Yeah, you just summed up this podcast.
Yes.
This is why I'm doing it, because I want to have the conversations that I didn't have growing up. And they were in my head and I was battling with them. And now I'm coming across people who have also battled with similar issues. Yeah. And now we're talking about it. And I love that your story is so similar to my story.
Yep.
And I don't know if this sounds a bit mean, but this mindset that we're talking about, this small mindset, this negative narrative around wealth, I feel this is what keeps people broke.
It does. It absolutely does. Do you know, I was having this conversation again the other day, and again, I am getting quite, it sometimes comes across harsh, but it's only because I've learned the hard way, and I say it not to criticise, I say it to try and inspire the right people, and to maybe plant a seed and get people to think, oh, maybe I can approach this differently. Maybe there is a different way. And I'd spoke about problems, because I always say to people, just because I'm living a very lovely life that I'm so grateful for every single day does not mean that I'm immune from setbacks and challenges and pressure. That's all there. I just know how to navigate it better now. But there's this saying that I learned years ago, and I absolutely love it. And it's, if you tell your problems to more than 2 people, it's attention you're looking for, not a solution. And I absolutely love that. And, you know, it really kept me in check, because I think it's natural sometimes when you're under pressure to go out and tell it to 3-4 people, you know, whoever will listen. And we use this word vent, you know, and we feel better. But actually, when you think about it, you only really need 2 people, you know, someone that you trust and someone that's maybe ahead of you that can give you really good, solid advice. That's it. You don't need to speak about it afterwards. The rest should be solution focused. It should be on the action. And then it's coming back to this thing of, okay, what can I do? What can I control? What are the things that I can do today that's going to make me feel better, or, you know, make the situation better? And so I think this is the mindset that I've learned and adopted over the years, because I wasn't always like that. I was very much, I would go and tell 5 people and see, you know, I wasn't even looking for advice. I was just looking to get that release. And so when we're in this, you know, why me, and this has happened to me, we cannot find solutions. And so it keeps us stuck. It keeps us broke. And it's not to say we're immune from setbacks and challenges, but it's, your external reality is a reflection of your internal reality, and you absolutely have to be solution focused and give yourself that grace. You know, there's days where I feel like a lot of pressure, and I think, okay, I'm just going to sit with it today. I'm just going to feel it. I'm going to go for a hot shower. I'm going to get pajamas on. I'm going to have a nice hot chocolate, and I'm just going to have a movie night with the family, and I'm just going to sit with it, you know. And then the next day I'm back into solution focus, because I think there's such a fine line now with toxic positivity. And I'm very, very aware of that. This is not about pretending that everything's okay. This is not about showing up and ignoring the challenges and being fluffy and saying, I'm fine, you know, I'm just going to focus on all the great things and all the fluffy things, and you ignore it. Sometimes you have to sit with it. Sometimes you have to have those two people where you sit with for 2 hours and say, I'm carrying a lot right now. I'm really feeling the pressure. I need to get out of it. But for now, I just need to chat it through. I just need to, you know, have that release. And that's absolutely okay. So I want to make that absolutely clear. This is not toxic positivity. It's that fine line and that balance of solution focused. And I think it's a healthy mindset. It's not a positive mindset. It's a healthy one. Sometimes we need that rest and recovery. Sometimes we need to talk it through. And sometimes I know for me, I absolutely have to action it. I have to just push through and power through. And it's tough. But then I get out the other side and I think, yeah, okay, now I'm back on the path now. Now I can see a solution. So, yeah.
We're very fortunate that we have language now, so we can say things like toxic positivity.
Yes.
Growing up, we didn't have that kind of language. We just used to think this is good. This is how we should be. Mm-hmm. So for me personally, I would call it spiritually bypassing my feelings. It would be God wants, this is a test from God. Yes. I've done something bad. I need to be patient. I need to be grateful. I cannot complain because if I'm complaining, then I'm not being grateful. And I used to put all of these like rules on myself, and it would just shut me up. And I would feel stuck because I'm here because this is where God wants me to be. And now I call it spiritual bypassing, because God also wants you to take action, for you to do something to change your circumstances. But
I love that.
It gets so blurred. The lines get really blurred when you can't see things for what they are. Yeah. And a lot of what you just said resonated with me, which is also that I also choose very wisely who I share things with, because I don't want a pity party. Yeah. So I don't want a group of women crying with me as I'm crying. That doesn't help me. So I will turn to the people who will give me good advice, who will action it, will be like, I understand you're going through this. Why don't you try this? Yeah. And that's what I need. But I see now, when I have sought out the people who are just crying with me, I did just want attention. And I did just want to feel sorry for myself. Yeah. And you probably also see this in women who come up to you with a very heavy problem. And you say, why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? And they're like, no, I just want to be sad and cry about it. Exactly. You probably come across friends or family who do that as well.
I do quite often. I love how you've described that there. And that's exactly how I look at it now. And I think that is brain training almost, and you learn a new approach. And my default now is, if something really bad happens, I sit with it and I think, I wonder what good is going to come out of this. I wonder why this has been sent to me. I wonder what I'm going to learn. I wonder what path I'm being taken from and what path I'm being put onto. And you know, it makes you feel so light to be able to sit in that problem. And, you know, my husband, he is getting very good at it, but not as good as me. And sometimes he just smiles. He's like, I'm going to get to that place one day where I don't have the default of, this is a nightmare. Why is this happening? And it's just an amazing space to be in and there are some times where I'll have that reaction of, wow, this is big and this feels hard and it feels heavy. But then you start to default into, where is this taking me? And it's amazing what happens in your mind and your body and the opportunities that come through in that day. It's just fascinating. And I do believe that the universe always has bigger plans. And so we are put on paths, and I have a history now where I know that all the problems, all the paths that I was put onto, where I did have that mindset of, why is this happening to me? You know, I'm a really good person. I've got great intentions, and how much more can I go through? You know, that when I look back, it was all redirection. It was all to take me to a lighter place, a better place, you know, areas of improvement. And I can speak so confidently in that now. And so when things happen now, that is my default because I have proof that this is why it's happening and I've yet to be proved wrong. So that's the mindset.
I love that you shared that foresight because I was in a similar situation about 2 years ago where I hit rock bottom. And I remember saying at that time that I'm going to win in this situation. Mm-hmm. This is going to be good for me. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know where this is going. I don't know why it's happening to me, but I'm going to be the winner in the situation because I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And even though at that time I could only see darkness ahead, I couldn't see a way out, but I still believed that there was a bigger plan in this and this was going somewhere. And I have this thing, I don't think anyone's pain is in vain.
Yes.
There's always a purpose and reason behind it. But
I believe so.
And you don't see it at the time. And like you said, this has happened enough time for you to now see patterns.
Yeah.
And that happens around 40, I feel like. You've had enough cycles. This has happened a few times. I kind of know the script. I don't know where it's going, but I'm going to trust the process.
It's like reinvention, isn't it?
Yeah.
I definitely feel that. And you've said like about, you know, you can only see what you're in at the moment. And I absolutely trust the universe 100% because we can only ever see a tiny part of the picture and you don't know why you're being redirected. You might think this is an amazing thing, but the universe can see things that we can't see. And so we have to be taken off that path and redirected. And sometimes it can be to do with a person or a client that you maybe think this is going to be the best client for me. And the universe sees differently and it's like, no, and that client cancels or asks for a refund and you think, why did this happen? This was, my finances were finally getting sorted out and, this was going to be a great relationship and it was great for my CV. And I just always think the universe is like, because down the path, this is going to be so much worse. So there's a protection element there. And I think when you trust that, life gets to be a lot more enjoyable.
Does, for sure. There's a verse in the Quran, I'm paraphrasing because I don't know word by word, but it basically says that there might be something that you dislike, but it's good for you.
Yes.
And there might be something that you like, and it's actually bad for you.
So true.
But God knows what you do not know.
So true.
It's
absolutely.
We see it. We've seen it so many times in our lives that we've on something, this is a sure thing, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
And later you see how terrible it was and vice versa. There must have been a job that you pursued or a relationship that you pursued that later you think, thank God I didn't get it. God, that would have been a disaster.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing with growth. You've absolutely nailed it there. It's like people think growth is like achievements and more money and more experiences. And yes, it absolutely is. But growth is messy. Growth is chaos. Growth is sad. Growth is uncomfortable. Growth is things falling apart. That is growth. And so I think people get confused sometimes because they think that it's meant to feel amazing all the time. It's not. It's absolutely not. And so that's another thing that I lean into where it's like, oh, I'm growing today because things are falling apart. It's like, how am I going to piece it back together? What opportunities am I allowing to come in at the moment? So that is growth. And I think we can all pick out a moment in our lives where we can think that felt like things were falling apart. And actually it was because better things were coming together.
So you speak about growth and you built your first business with your husband.
I did.
Tell me about that.
So my husband and I decided very young that we were just meant for more. So I came out of childcare. He was a gas and heating engineer and had did very, very well. He was off the tools very early and was doing quality control. And so we knew that we were definitely meant for more. And we came up with this idea to start a trades business. And I thought, if he can do what he does best, I can definitely come in with a woman's perspective on this because I don't think it matters where you are in the world. Trades do not get a good reputation. They are messy, they're unreliable. They don't show up in time, they charge more. And I thought, imagine if we could change that. Imagine if we could have this business that do exactly what they say they're going to do. We stay within the budget. The people that we employ are clean and tidy and they go above and beyond. And that's exactly what we did. And this business grew arms and legs. And I always say this to people, growing a business isn't rocket science. It's really, really simple. Do what you say you're going to do. And you'll win against the rest. You absolutely will. Because that reputation spreads. people talk about you for all the right reasons, and you become the winner in your industry. And that's exactly what happened to us. So it grew arms and legs, and then we got into the commercial side. So we ended up, it was kitchens, bathrooms, and then it was hotels, there was restaurants, there was wedding venues. And it was a huge, huge success. And of course, this is what people see. Okay, so they see the nice house and they see the nice car and they see, you know, us going away on holiday 5 times a year. What they don't see is the sleepless nights in order to get there, you know, the concerns and that overwhelming responsibility for huge teams of people, responsibility for clients. You're carrying a lot of pressure. We lost a lot of friends who didn't understand our journey. And I understand that. That was not all their fault. That was ours, because we became immersed in that world. Our social life was business. Our conversations was business and self-development. It became about the latest book and the latest entrepreneur and the latest episode of Dragon's Den. And our friends just couldn't relate to us anymore. And it was funny because back then a lot of people would say, "You've changed." And I used to take that as a bad thing. Now when someone says that, I say, "Thank you. I have." Because that is what we're meant to do. We're meant to change. We're meant to evolve. And so it's a compliment now. But this business was huge, and it was multi-million turnover for over the space of 10 years. And then after 10 years, the business unfortunately collapsed. And that takes us to the next part of my story, which was just horrendous. I struggle even now to put it into words about what that did to us as people. Financially, the pressure was unbelievable, like nothing that I'd ever felt before. I actually craved the pressure of the bigger projects again, because the financial pressure, it's everything. It's every aspect. It's every time you go to do the food shop. It's every time a bill comes in. It's the first thing that you think about in the morning, the last thing that you think about before you go to bed. So the financial pressure was incredible. We put a lot of personal savings in to try and save the company. And it just didn't work out. And it was the worst decision of our lives to try and do that. And we had a 3-year-old at the time. And so I think for me, I definitely felt like a failure as a business person, a failure as a woman, a failure as a wife, and now a failure as a mum, because my son didn't ask to be brought into that world where we were scrambling to put food on the table and trying to sell things just to stay afloat. And there came a point, it was the lowest point in my life, where I had to take a tin of coins to a Coinstar machine in exchange for notes to pay for his nursery uniform. And I drove home that day, and the tears, just, I could barely even see out the window, and the rain was battering off the windscreen, and the window wipers were going really, really fast, and the windows wouldn't clear, and it was just an overwhelming feeling of, I failed. I've got this so wrong, and I've peaked. I've had all the success, and now this is my life. I'm never going to get it back. And then the childhood memories that we spoke about earlier, this is why people like us shouldn't have businesses. This is why, because this is what happens. Clearly I'm not good enough. Clearly it was never meant to be. And so that was definitely the defining moment in my life. It was the worst day of my whole entire life. And so I got home, and when I got into bed that night, something happened, and I thought, I'm not going to live like this. I can't live like this. I can't do this to my son. Something needs to change. I don't know what, but something needs to change. And we stayed in for a long time. I was terrified to go out in case I bumped into anyone who would say, "Oh, what happened? What happened to your business?" And you're having to relive this same story over and over. And it didn't even feel like a story. It didn't feel like it was mine. It felt like I was justifying myself, explaining myself, trying to put my point across. And of course it's not landing, because you're telling it to the wrong people. They don't care. They want the story. They don't actually care about how you feel. They want to know what happened.
The gossip.
So they can go back and tell their friends when they go out that weekend that they bumped into you, and what actually happened, and how the mighty fall, and all this. And so those conversations just made me feel even worse. So I just opted to stay in and avoid people at all costs. And my husband did the same. And, you know, our marriage changed as well, because he went from this really powerful, assertive leader who everyone respected and who everyone aspired to be like, to struggling to get up out of bed in the morning. And so the whole dynamics of the relationship changed, and I became the motivator. You know, come on, we have to get up and do something. This is not the solution. And he just couldn't face the world and understand that. And I think it's more difficult for a man, because I think women can regulate their emotions in different ways. We can cry a lot easier. We can talk. We can, you know, write things down. And I think men are never really taught how to do that. And it's looked upon as a weakness. And so they hold it in. And I know this is stereotypical. I like to think that we're in a different space now where men can speak openly about that. But I think definitely 10 years ago, this was not a thing. My husband didn't have anyone that he could trust, anyone that he could speak to, anyone that that would understand. And so, yeah, we muddled through. That's really what we did. We muddled through. And then there was a defining moment in my life where a business associate said to me, I think you need to go to this event. This is an event called A Day to Change Your Life. And I thought, I don't go to events, but the name on that ticket, that is absolutely what I need in my life right now. And so I went along, nervous in case I bumped into someone that I knew. And this was a life coach to the celebs, a guy called Campbell. And he stood up on that stage. There was 250 people in the room, and he started talking about the power of thought, the power of action, the power of your belief system. And we can create our own reality through the power of thought. And it just captured me. But what really made a difference to me was that people were standing up and sharing their stories in the room that day. And they were sharing the most horrendous, heartbreaking stories. People with 6 months to live, people who had lost their babies through tragedy. And I felt like a fraud. I felt like a victim that I didn't actually need to be a victim. And I was this person who had lost a business. And here I was in the room with all these people who were having real problems. And so I didn't realise it back then, but what actually happened was that switch of being stuck in that victim mindset to actually stepping into that element of gratitude of, I actually have my health right now. I have my baby boy at home with my husband. I have a roof just over my head. There is some food in the fridge. And so I left feeling like I have options, I have choices, I have opportunity, and I'm just not grabbing hold of that. And so that was the day that really, really changed my life.
That's so fascinating, especially what you said about feeling like a victim.
Yeah.
Because I do feel when we're in those rock bottom moments that you can't help but feel, why me? I'm a good person. I don't deserve this. And you just feel so powerless and you lose your agency.
Yeah.
Because you feel you have no power. And all of those things, for me personally, even looking back, was all the things that contributed to keeping me stuck in that position. And you said your defining moment was when you went and attended that event and it changed your thinking. Sometimes change can be even smaller than that. Like for me, all I said to myself once was, you're not going to spend the rest of your life crying about this now, are you?
Yeah,
exactly. That's all it took for me to move from being stuck to like, let's stop crying.
Yeah, it's a decision.
It
and
is.
I think it's that decision, but it's also the action piece. And I think I did spend a long time waiting for someone to come and give me help or someone to give me an opportunity or an idea. I was waiting for that inspiration. I was waiting for that change. And I probably would have still been sat in my house for another 2 years if I didn't make that decision to go to that event. So that was the piece of action where there was something inside me that the name on that ticket, I knew that's what I needed. And it was taking that action to really get uncomfortable and get dressed and go to that event afraid of what was going to happen, afraid of meeting someone I knew. And it was very uncomfortable. And as we know, those uncomfortable pieces of action are life-changing. And so many people want to avoid it. They want the solution, but they don't want to step into that discomfort. And I know how hard that was for me. So I appreciate how hard it is for everyone else. But my solution came through me taking action and what I was ready to expose myself to, and then the action that came afterwards. So I think you're right. It has to be a decision, and then just a little piece of action. I could not have contemplated how my life was going to change by stepping foot in that room that day. And I think that's the mindset that you need to have, because you just never know.
But I agree with you when you said that people think help looks like somebody's going to come and save you. An opportunity will come knocking on your door. Something will come externally.
Yeah.
But no one thinks, no, something needs to change internally for the circumstances or the opportunities to change. We've got the order wrong, don't we?
Yeah, we absolutely do. I remember that, I don't know if it was a book or a podcast that I listened to this, but it was around this time. And it was, this is where I just became a sponge at this point. I just thought I need to, go on a self-development journey and learn about me and the mind and the body and why we respond. And so I was reading these books and listening to podcasts. And I remember this story about a guy who had lost everything. He'd lost his business, he'd lost his family, and he was driving up the road and he hadn't noticed, and his car ran out of petrol. And he pulled over at the side and he broke down and just started crying. And he sat in the car for hours and hours. And he was in this mindset of, why is this happening to me? I don't understand. Why is everything falling apart? And, he was just broken. He couldn't see a way out. And then he decided to get out the car, because at this point he was thinking, why are all these cars driving past me? No one even wants to help me now. He got out the car and it was wet and it was windy, and he started flagging people down. And someone stopped and said, do you need some help? And he said, yes, please, I need some help. And he said, actually, I have a petrol can, so let me fill that up for you. And he got the help. And the moral of the story is, when you're sat upset in your car, no one even knows you need help. People just assume that you're there because you have another reason. Maybe you're waiting for someone to come and get you. Maybe you're on a call. But when you get out and you take that action and you ask for the help and you present yourself as the person who needs that help, you're going to get the help. You're going to get an opportunity and you're going to get that support. And so I remember that story really stuck with me as well, about the importance of exactly what we said. Making the decision and taking that little piece of action changes the whole trajectory.
It does. And it's also about taking the responsibility. I read a book around the same thought. I don't know if you've read the book. It's the subtle art of not giving a bleep.
Yes,
that was the title of the book. And in it, he differentiates between blame and responsibility.
Yes.
That so many things happen in our life that are not our fault. Our car gets hit, our relationship breaks down, or we get bankrupt. And all of these things we didn't do. They happened to us.
Yeah.
And perhaps your partner's to blame, or your business partner's to blame, or your friend's to blame. But it's still our responsibility to do something about it. Just
Definitely.
like, for example, if you're driving and somebody hits your car, it's not your fault they were texting and driving, but you still have to take your car to the garage, get it fixed up and, fix things up as well. And I think that's where we get lost. We get fixated on the blame, the person or the institute or the family or whatever it is that did it to you. And that essentially just absolves you of taking responsibility to changing your life for the better.
Absolutely. I agree.
So you mentioned coaching and growing up. I don't know if this was the case for you. I knew of sports coaches, and anybody who was into sports had a coach.
Yeah.
But otherwise, coaching wasn't a thing.
That's right.
But today it feels as if either everybody is becoming a coach or has a coach almost. And tell me, why is coaching so important?
I think people are realizing that this is a way to elevate and improve themselves now. And I think there's a big difference with coaches. You've said it, everyone's becoming a coach or has a coach, and I think there's a really strong differentiation, because unfortunately in the industry, there are people that can read a book in a weekend and become a coach, or they can do a 3-day program and become a coach. And so I think it's really important to know who you're looking for. Me personally, I always look for people who are where I want to be. So that could be in business, it could be in fitness and nutrition, it doesn't matter in terms of maybe their energy and their mindset. And I think it's really important to look at coaches as role models and not just people who can give you information or ask good questions. Because I think there's this, it's about feeling normal and feeling seen and feeling understood. And I think you can do that if you have life experience. And so that's how I respond to high level coaches, because if they can say to me, I've been here before, I've been in this situation, this is exactly how I navigated it, I retain that information a lot better. And I think, okay, that's exactly what I'm going to do. But I think it's so important to have coaches. There is one reason: it collapses time. And I'm all about collapsing time, quantum leaps. If I can get to where I want to go faster, then I'll absolutely do it. And I think investing in the right coaches, that's what's going to get you there, because so many people in business and in life, they second guess themselves. They wonder if they're doing the right thing. They go to put themselves out there and then they don't do it. Is this the right way? Is this the right clients? Is this the right approach? Having a coach there to say, okay, let's dissect this. What do you want to achieve? How can we get there? This is what's worked for me in the past. What feels right for you? You're just going to make these decisions and you're going to get the results a lot faster. So I think that's what people are starting to see in the coaching world now.
And it makes sense because we're living in a time where there's such an overload of information, books and courses and chat and AI. Anything you need to know, you can find out.
Yep.
But there's such a difference between that information that's so readily available compared to the knowledge that somebody's giving you who has embodied that lesson.
Totally.
And then you're like, you did it. So you have a blueprint. I want to learn from your blueprint, because you're essentially putting your money where your mouth is.
Of course.
And it makes sense. Like you said, you wouldn't go to a PT who's not taking lifestyle and nutrition seriously.
No.
Because how can they help you? They can't help themselves.
Exactly. I think it comes down to energy as well. I think energy plays a huge part in how you get that information and retain it. And I always tell the story about when my son was small. I used to go to a health visitor clinic every Friday he was like 3 weeks, and I would walk there and we'd get him weighed and the health visitor was there and we sat in a circle and we had tea and biscuits and we'd all have conversations, and the advice was just invaluable. You can't get that from a book. You can, but you don't feel it the same way. So that information exists in books where it's like, okay, if you want to get an extra hour's sleep, these are all the amazing things that you can do. And it's like, oh, okay, you read it, you retain it, and you think, okay, I'll maybe do that later. Nothing quite hits like real life experience and feeling that human connection and that energy in the room where people are giving real life advice. I think that's what sticks. And I know every Friday I left with a new lease of life, because I'd maybe walked in there having had 3 hours sleep. And then on the way home, I'm like, I'm going to get 5 tonight. I'm going to get 5 because I'm going to take all the advice of all the mums who are ahead of me and the health visitor, and I'm going to implement it. I'm going to start it and I'm going to get those 5 hours sleep. And it worked, because it's that collective experience and that energy in the room. It just lands so much deeper than any book ever will.
It makes sense. The book will tell you need your 7 to 8 hours, but that mum will tell you how she's doing it with her children and working and breastfeeding at night. And this is how she's managing to do it. There's a massive difference, because one shows you how it's possible. The other is just theory, which may or may not work for you.
That's it.
So I completely agree. So what is it that your coach said or did to you that completely transformed your life?
I've had a lot of different coaches over the years. Funnily enough, I've actually had a lot of male coaches. And I think that came from being in the home improvements industry, the construction industry. It's kind of what I knew. And so I probably had a lot of masculine energy, and I just related. I like the fact that men are very logical thinkers. They're very analytical. I used to laugh all the time because there would be arguments between the guys on site, and within 5 minutes it was done, it was over, and they were having coffee together. And I think with women, it kind of goes on for the rest of the week, and there's a bit, So I just loved how men operated. And I know this is very stereotypical, but this was my own personal experience. So I loved the male coaches, but what was really life-changing for me, about 3.5 years ago, I invested in my first female coach. And that completely changed the game for me. She taught me about having feminine energy and the power in that. She taught me about energetics. She taught me about identity. She taught me about self-worth and self-belief and the things that I'd never had from the male coaches in the past. It was all very much strategy-based, and confidence and power and putting yourself out there. This was a different way, and I absolutely loved it. And I definitely learned a lot about my value and my own self-worth, and how the ripple effect of what I can do can help so many other people. So I think having that female coach in my corner was just amazing for that. She constantly planted seeds about my own identity, my own belief systems, and she was just such a huge support for me. And it goes back to what we spoke about. We definitely collapsed time. Every day I'd be in there with 3 questions. These are the things that I want to do today. What's the one that I should be doing, or what's the right one? And we just made high-level decisions every single day. She was such a go-to for me. So yeah, it really was life-changing, having someone there to say you're worth more than that, or this doesn't sound like the right direction for you, and it's being challenged in a really positive way. And like we spoke about earlier, finding those high-level solutions. It's like, I'm with you, I've got you. Now, what are we going to do about it? Let's work together to see how we can overcome this. And it's like, it's such a breath of fresh air.
I mean, that's the thing with women, right? Women get women.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that one woman might be struggling with could be to do with her self-worth or her authority or her confidence. It's likely that another woman has battled with the same kind of issues. So
of course,
there's something about them sharing a blueprint with you.
Definitely.
So now you work with, you have your own clients.
Yes.
And you probably have a lot of different types of people working with you.
Yes.
Tell me, what kind of people work with you, and what does transformational change look like?
So again, based on my own experiences of building 2 successful businesses back in the UK, losing the first one, there's a lot of lessons in there, and I've realised that one of the biggest things that motivates me is to inspire people to live life fully on their own terms. And I do believe you won't become successful unless you put the work in, and I think that is a non-negotiable. But it also doesn't mean sacrifice. It also doesn't mean behind a laptop for 18 hours a day. And so I think I promote work hard on your own terms. So when you're in business, there is no real Monday to Friday. So you might have young children that are maybe away to a water park with another family on a Sunday. That's your opportunity to get your laptop out for 6 hours and, really get behind the business and get creative and focus on that growth. But also that ability to do the school run on a Monday or be there for all the milestones. And so this is what I'm really passionate about. You're not going to get there without hard work, but I'm the person to collapse time and help you take those quantum leaps and show you how to work hard on your own terms. And I work with a wide range of people, but again, this is something that's evolved over the years, and I know that I work to my highest level when I work with the highest level. So when I have business owners that come to me who are ready, they know exactly what they want, they've already become successful, but they want to get to the next level, those clients challenge me, and I love it. So they'll say things to me like, yes, that's fine, I'm willing to do that, but why? I need to know why I'm doing that. I'll follow your strategy, but what's the impact of that? What's that going to do to my business? When am I likely to see results? But they are willing to be led, but they have their own opinions. And so I love people like that. And also these are people, 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs who question their worth, question their identity. Can I do that? Am I capable of doing that? And I'm like, are you kidding me? You are incredible. Like, this is where you need to be. And it's like, do I? Okay, then I'll do it. So I love that balance of helping high level get to the next level. And so, yeah, I work with a lot of people in the wellness industry. I work with property educators. I work with aesthetics companies. And it's more, rather than about the industry, it's definitely more about the people for me. And I definitely have this mix of 50% strategy, 50% identity. So there's a lot of energy work behind this. I say to people, you can have the best strategy in the world. You can read all the books and listen to all the wealthy, successful people. But if it's not fully aligned, if you don't have good energy behind it and good intentions behind it, and that doesn't feel good for you, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle to become successful. The journey is not going to be enjoyable, and that's the most important thing here. This is about creating a journey where you can have your family time, but you're so excited to get back from your family time because you cannot wait to open that laptop and get your tea out and create the next offer or wait to see what your clients are going to say. This is what life and business should be about. It's that balance of being pulled between the enjoyment, not being pulled between, I'll do this and then I have to do that, pulled in the enjoyment. And I just love that space, and it's absolutely achievable with the right approach. And that's what I'm really passionate about, because business gets to be fun. You know, you can get to work with the real enjoyable clients. You can get to do it in a way that feels aligned with you. If you want to do it in school hours and weekends, absolutely, you can do that. You can absolutely do that. It's about finding the right structure and the right clients and the right business model that fits into your life. That's where you're going to become successful, and that's what I'm really passionate about teaching people.
So your model is around do something that you love and you're passionate about, and have the right mindset and belief system behind it as well.
Absolutely. Something that creates change, something that creates impact, something that has good intentions and it's going to have a ripple effect. And some people don't actually know what they enjoy. A lot of people come to me and they're like, I'm really good at this. I've been told all my life that I'm exceptional at it and I find it really easy. That's amazing, but enjoying it's completely different. Do you enjoy it? Not really. I find it really easy, but I don't enjoy it. It's like, okay, let's find the enjoyment. And there's a book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. I encourage everyone to read it. And it's all about your zone of excellence versus your zone of genius. So your zone of excellence is someone who's maybe very good with numbers and they become an accountant because they find it really easy and they like that tick box at the end of the day where they can say, I did well today and I got that done. But the zone of genius is different. The zone of genius is like where time passes so quickly, where you could sit here to 1 a.m. and think, what happens? I was meant to go to bed at 10:30, and you're just immersed in it. You are enjoying that journey. It's that feeling on a Sunday of wanting to do that, you know, wanting to go in and speak to AI about creative ideas around it, or you want to immerse yourself in a book around it, or you want to have your client meeting because you know that it's going to be enjoyable. That's your zone of genius.
It's flow as well. They call it flow as well, isn't it? Where time passes by and you don't know what just happened.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard for people to get that mix of something that they're really good at and passionate about, but also really believe that they can do it as well.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, we watched the Michael Jackson movie.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's really good.
I'm so excited.
But after I watched the movie, I went down this rabbit hole of like Michael Jackson, what he was like and everything. And his nephew, Jafar Jackson, who played his role, said that during filming, he had access to all of his Michael Jackson's books and journals, and they were just filled with affirmations and positive statements, and he would put them on his mirrors and he would meditate over them, and it had in it things like, I will be the greatest musician of all times. And many people say that this is the secret behind his success, which is why he went on to be who he was. How far would you agree with that?
I massively agree with that, but I think a lot of people get it wrong. And so I think people read these books about affirmations and they take it quite literally, and people will walk around and they'll say, I am a millionaire, you know, I am this, I am that. And then the logical part of the brain kicks in and says, no, you're not. No, you're absolutely not. So the affirmations, the whole point of it for me is that you have to feel something, and it needs to be in your use of language, and it needs to create an emotion or a reaction in your body. And so naturally, I will say things like, so if something good's happening in my life, I'll say it out loud. That's an affirmation. So I was at a network event a couple of weeks ago and people said to me, and how's business? How are you doing? How's things right now? And I was like, do you know what? I am just in a space right now where I'm attracting the most amazing clients. I am absolutely loving what I'm doing right now. That's affirmations, okay? But people don't say it because it's like, oh, well, I hope they're doing okay. I hope I don't upset them by saying that I'm doing okay. And so we don't share it. And it's back to the old childhood memories. Am I showing off? Am I saying something that I shouldn't? And it's like, I don't care about that anymore. I speak exactly what's in my mind. That is an affirmation, and that's how you end up attracting more. Not, I am a millionaire. That doesn't create anything in my body. But when I talk about, I am attracting the highest level of clients right now, and I'm absolutely loving it. I am just in a routine right now where I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the house that we're living in. I'm just enjoying my coffee in the morning, the sound of birds and looking at my pool. Like, I am just loving my morning routine right now. I am. But it's true. It's true for me. And so it's creating that reaction. It's creating that emotion. And then lo and behold, you go home and there's 2 high-level clients in your inbox. So I massively, massively believe that. And it's just speaking to what you believe to be true, but more importantly, what you're feeling right now, and putting that positive spin on it. And sharing within a group amplifies. That's for a whole new podcast. But the energy behind that, honestly, this is why in groups of people, I encourage people to share their achievements, share their wins, share what they're grateful for, share their affirmations, because when you share that collectively, something magical happens. But I would need an hour to explain it, but please do it.
Do you also think, though, that affirmations need to be followed up by some level of action as well? Because like in the Michael Jackson example, there's no denying the man was in the studio for hours on end and worked nights and missed birthdays and holidays. He worked hard. Yes. And then he also believed that he will see success as a result of his work as well. So they went together, right?
Of course.
So
and
if we just keep
back to my philosophy, the 50% action, you have to take action. And there's a clip of Jim Carrey, who years ago, he was completely broke and he wrote himself a check. Have you heard this story? It's incredible. So he wrote himself a check for $10 million and he put it in his wallet, and it, got older and older and deteriorated, and he dated it for Thanksgiving, whatever the date was. And the day before Thanksgiving, on that date, he found out he was going to make $10 million on Dumb and Dumber. And his explanation of that is, you cannot manifest and use affirmations and then go eat a sandwich. And it's so true. So it's like within those 3 years, he didn't sit and just, wait for that to happen. He went out, he met people, he took opportunities, he said yes to things that he probably didn't want to, but he knew was probably a really good stepping stone. He put himself in situations where opportunity and luck could find him. That's why it happened. And it's the same as my story. Yes, it was a day to change my life, but only because I got in that shower and I got dressed and I went there. That's why my life changed. So yes, affirmations, but back it up with action. That's what it's powerful.
And that action doesn't have to be huge as well. It can be very small.
A decision.
It's a few years ago, I did a faith mindset course, which was called Visionaire.
Okay.
And I was taught that when we pray to God, we should ask for big things, because we shouldn't have any self-limiting beliefs like, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve it, I'm not a good person. So ask big. But then after you've asked, have full conviction that what you've asked for is coming. And perhaps that might look like, say, I asked for a Bentley, for example. Action may look like clearing out some room in my garage for this Bentley that I know is coming, because I believe it's coming, but I've also done something about it.
Exactly.
And I think these two things play a really strong role. I feel some people either have the strategy, but they're missing the conviction, or they have the conviction, but they're not doing the strategy.
Agreed.
And they both work together so strongly.
They do work together. I don't know if you've listened to any of Steve Harvey's podcasts, or you're going to love this guy. He is incredible. His energy is amazing. He's an American guy. And he talks about, if you're going to ask God for something, make sure that it's big. And his philosophy is, it takes the same energy and effort to say Bentley as it does Fiat. So why not ask for the Bentley? And it's also the same energy to say 1 million and 10 million. So just ask for the 10 million. And then show up with that absolute conviction and self-belief. Because his philosophy is, if you ask small, you're probably going to get it anyway. So just go for the big. And you might not get the full big picture, but you might get somewhere in between. And it's that, taking that action, speaking with conviction, and that rock solid self-belief of, I'm the person that deserves this. I'm the person that's worthy of this. And I know that this can absolutely be my reality. So he speaks a lot about the conviction and ask big. He's phenomenal.
So is this the kind of work you also do with your clients? Do you encourage them to reach that level of conviction?
Yes, I do. That's why it needs to be high level. So I'll make my clients laugh, where they'll come to me and they'll say, okay, I want to sign 2 new clients this month. And I'm like, don't come to me with your 2 new clients. That's not even a goal. That is inevitable. And I'm sorry, but that bores me. Okay, let's talk about quantum leaps. Let's talk about the decisions that are going to 10x your business. Let's talk about 1 hour of action that's going to change the whole direction of what you go off and do today. Those 2 clients are inevitable. That's not a goal. They're going to come. You're probably going to get 4. That is not the goal. The goal is to aim big and see what happens in between. Get that excitement, get that energy, and aim for the stars, because you will be shocked in terms of what you can actually achieve. So yeah, my high-level clients laugh at me. Oh, I want to sign 2 clients. I'm like, do not come to me with that. That is not why you're investing in me.
But I can see why we are so hesitant, because we're scared.
Yeah.
We're scared. And also there's a part of us, for many of us, we don't think we deserve it, or if that we're worthy, or that we're capable. All of those self-limiting beliefs, which really need to be addressed.
They do, but I think people assume that it's only hard work that's going to get you there. So a lot of people think, well, you know, I worked 40 hours last week and I got 1 new client. So if I need 2 new clients, I need to work 80 hours a week. It's so not true. And I think that's what holds people back from setting these big goals, because they think, if I want to, you know, I'm working really, really hard to live in this house. If I want a house that's twice as big, I'm going to have to work twice as hard. It's not the way the universe works. And so this is what I teach people. It's a different mindset, a different energy, a different business model to allow you to get there within a shorter time frame, but not putting any more hours in and not making any more sacrifices. It's just a different approach.
I completely agree with you. I don't think one needs to work harder, but they do need to feel discomfort though, and feel uncomfortable. And
yes.
They have to be okay with that. And I feel many people are not. We don't do unfamiliar. Yep. We don't do new people. We don't do new settings, new environments very well at all.
So true.
And I think that's our block as well.
It is. Discomfort and inconvenience should be your best friends. That's what I say to all my clients. And so I teach them about the difference of, sometimes I think people take it too literally when they live life on their own terms. So I've used this example of someone who has a Pilates business, and they'll say, I close my laptop every Friday at 4:00 and I don't open it again until a Monday. But after I've done the school run, after I've done my Pilates class, and after I've had my matcha, then I'll open my laptop. I'm also going to be a multimillionaire. And I'll say, no, you're not. No, you're not. It doesn't happen like that. And I think people take the boundaries too literally. So for example, I shared a story that a few weeks ago, it was a Friday night. I had a really busy day with clients. I came home at 6:00. I got in the shower. I got the pajamas on, the hair up, and I was ready for a movie night with my husband and my son. And I got a call to say, the Telegraph are looking to speak to you. They want to do a Zoom call. Can you do it at 8 p.m? Absolutely. I'll be there. That's inconvenient, okay? Because it's the last thing that I want to do, but there's so much opportunity in there, and I have to take that opportunity. But I also have boundaries in place. So my clients get access to me Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And I don't check my messages at the weekend. That's my downtime. That's my family time. But I also take an opportunity. And I do say to my clients, if something's really, really urgent, I'm on Instagram all weekend. Send me a message in there and I'll get back to you. But these are our boundaries, and they respect that. And so I think boundaries and shutting off opportunity, there's blurred lines now, and people need to be aware of that. So I think you're absolutely right. People take it quite literally. It's like, oh, you know, I have all these boundaries now, and, you know, I don't want to feel uncomfortable. You know, why should I? I've got to a comfortable place in life. Great. If you want to stay comfortable, don't be uncomfortable. But you're not going to progress. You're not going to grow. You're not going to reach these goals that you keep speaking about. So I think there's blurred lines.
For sure. And that example you used of the woman who's opening her laptop at the end of the day is also showing me where her priorities are as well. Is her priority then becoming a millionaire if she's leaving it till the end of the day?
No, it's not. And it's she will feel that she's successful because she's prioritising her family life. She's prioritising self-care. She's prioritising, you know, take care of myself with my Pilates and my matcha and my slow mornings. And absolutely, I'm a huge advocate for that. Like, slow mornings is the way to success. I don't care what anyone says, it is the way. That's when you get creative. That's when you get space to think. That's when, you know, that feeling of not having to rush out the door every day and feel that pressure, it does something to your nervous system. And when you're in that calm space, you are in a position for success and for opportunity because you're thinking so clearly. but there's other ways that you can put the work in. And we talk about discomfort. It's the fastest way to progress. So I said the other day to someone, I've never been the person that asked for 10 introductions to try and get to the CEO. I'd rather spend my time just banging down the CEO's door, you know. It's like, that's collapsing time, that's discomfort. And it is, because there's a lot of rejection, there's a lot of not today, or there's a lot of I'll just ignore you. That's tough. So people take the safe route where it's like, maybe I can speak to her because she's my friend and she can maybe introduce me to her who's in a better position. And then, you know, they follow this line because it's the comfortable way. Just go straight to the CEO and see what happens. Chances are you're going to get in there and it will change the whole direction of your business.
I hear you. You have to be so comfortable with discomfort.
Yep.
Like even with this podcast work, the amount of times I put myself out there and I say to my husband, I hear crickets. It's like,
Yeah.
And I have to get used to it, because
Yep.
for the 10 times I put myself out there, one time somebody does respond.
Absolutely.
And I get the response that I didn't even imagine.
Yep.
But you have to do that.
You have to detach yourself from the process.
I agree.
You have to completely detach from likes, views, comments, feedback. You just have to set yourself a goal of, right, okay, I'm going to do 100 podcasts this year. And that's it. You don't get caught up in the in-between. You just focus on the goal of 100 podcasts. And then it becomes inevitable. Then you get the feedback. Then you get the engagement. You're not looking at the individual episodes. You're looking at what you get by the end of the goal. And so I think people get stuck with social media and the journey, and just focus on where you're going.
What you just said about detaching from the negativity, I also think it helps to detach from even the highlights as well.
Yes.
And keep yourself really neutral, that this did really, really, really well. Okay.
Yeah,
And this
exactly.
didn't do so well. Okay. Because otherwise you're on an emotional high and low. You're on this
Totally.
roller coaster where somebody likes something and you're up there, and somebody didn't like something and you're on the floor. So
You
it's
can't be
good
affected.
to be neutral to it all.
You've got to, neutral is the word. That is exactly the word. You've got to be, because like you say, that's when you're up, down, because it's that external validation. Oh, that was good, so I feel good. Oh, that was bad, so I feel bad. And it's, you know, what's the saying? Don't let compliments go to your head and don't let negativity get to your heart. Something like that. You've got to find that neutral, you know, and that's where the work on yourself is so important. You've got to be rock solid in your own worth, your own value, your own beliefs. And what you do creates impact and will create impact regardless of people's opinions. And, you know, if you're trying to please everyone, then you're not being authentic. You've got to be authentic to yourself. The right people will flock and the wrong people will disappear.
I agree with you. So, Angela, a lot of what you do, you are coming from a place of lived experiences, and these were my highs and these were my lows, and these are the lessons I've learned.
Yeah.
So you built your first business, and it went bankrupt, and then you built your second business.
Yes.
What did you consciously do differently the second time round, which you learned from the failures of the first business?
I think I definitely went into it with a different mindset, because in the first business, towards the end, there was definitely a lot of negative mindset. There was definitely focus on problems, focus on pressure. And so I made a conscious effort with my mindset. I think the strategy was very different as well. So I looked a lot at what did work the first time round, and then I sort of amplified that and doubled down on it. And I looked at what really didn't work, and I just completely stayed away from it. So the other thing was making sure that I was investing to learn, you know, because yes, I had my own learned experiences, my own success, my own failure, but I really wanted to invest and learn from other people who could give their insights and almost that outsider's perspective of taking the emotion out of it, because I think having come through that, it's very easy to fall into the emotional decisions of this feels the same way that it felt the last time, or oh, that, you know, that's uncomfortable for me, and there's fear there. Of course there's fear, you know, are we going to build all this and is it going to happen again? So yeah, I think investing for that logical brain to come in and look at it from an outsider's perspective to say, this is really, really good. We definitely want to plug these little weaknesses. So yeah, there was a big conscious effort to amplify what worked and get that advice.
Do you think how you were raised also plays a role in this as well? The reason why I say this is because you mentioned investing in those experts who gave you that kind of advice. we didn't grow up investing in coaches that tell us how to eat better or train better or live better. So it's quite alien to us to almost pay somebody to tell us how to do something.
Totally.
And it's something that I'm unlearning as well, and my husband's unlearning as well. This isn't familiar, the way to do things for us. So but I can see the benefit, the immense benefit of somebody who's clearly an expert in this field, who can just show you how to do it, rather than you figuring out yourself, spending hours that could have been spent on something else.
That's right. I think it's Jim Rohn that says you'll never live long enough to figure it all out on your own. So the quickest way is just invest in people who already know the answers. And it's so funny because people will agonize over that, where they say, oh, I maybe don't want to invest that right now, or it's not the right time for me, or it's a lot of money. People are not willing to invest money, but they're willing to invest time. So I'm like, you're willing to invest 3 years to figure all this out and go through all the pain and make the mistakes, but you're not willing to invest the money that's going to erase all of that and actually get you to where you need to go. So I find that fascinating, but yet you're absolutely right. Like, we did not know how to get that information, and it's something that I learned very quickly. I thought, if I need this information, I want access to that information, I have to pay for it. And so I learned that very young, and then your first experience of it, even the day to change your life, that was a free ticket for me because someone gave it to me. But that was an investment for people in the room, and so that struck a chord with me. I thought, if I can pay for this, I'm going to get more of these light bulb moments. I'm going to get more excitement. I'm going to get more clarity. And so it became a bit of an obsession of investing in myself. And most successful entrepreneurs, in fact, every successful entrepreneur will tell you that they did not get to where they are without investing in themselves. So again, I just look at what they've done, and you follow the same path. If they're investing, I want to invest.
It makes sense, but we will see, it's normal for us to see people who will pay for that holiday or that new car or that second property, because that's what we're used to seeing, that if you have money, that's where it goes. It goes on things that you can tangibly see. But anything when it comes to internal self-improvement, self-development, because you can't see it, you can't hold it, it's very hard for people to see the value in what they're investing in. But I agree with you. Once you do it, you just can't look back.
You can, and it is important. You need to do your research. So if you are investing in someone, just because they have a good social media post and it resonates with you isn't a reason to invest. Go find out what's their life experience. Why are they teaching you this? What do they know? What have they figured out? And what results are they getting for other people? Like, you have to know that, because I have seen so many people just jump into it because they think, oh, this looks amazing, this is what I need right now. And then it turns out they're not who they said they were, or they're not getting the value that they thought. So you absolutely have to do your research on who you're investing in first. For sure.
So you mentioned social media.
Yes.
And I have been following your posts on LinkedIn.
Amazing.
And I wanted to read you one that really stuck with me. You said, I wake up every day and tell myself today's the day, the highest amount of money that's ever hit my account, the biggest sales day, the most abundance I've ever experienced. And you call this your money rituals.
Yes.
So tell me, for someone who grew up being told that money is for other people, how central are money rituals or positive mindset around money in everything that you do?
They are everything. It is so important. You have to have a good money mindset, a positive money mindset. You have to have a healthy relationship with money, because you will block what is coming in for you. So again, you can have the strategy, you can have, the mindset and the belief. If you don't have a good money mindset, you're going to block everything. And I have undone this with so many people. And it's something that I've invested heavily into over the years. And I've realized that I've had to go and clear all those blocks. The old beliefs, they get stuck and they come to the surface every now and again, but it is so, so important. And I just think, money doesn't mean that you're greedy. Money amplifies you. So that's what I just think about all the time. I think the more money I make, the bigger I can be, the more people that I can help, the more people that I can bring into my world, show them how to live, show them how to become successful. That's a ripple effect. And money will elevate me and allow me to do that. And I also know that I have good intentions with it. It's not about all materialistic things. I mean, listen, there's certain things that I like, and I think this is really important as well. It's like, money needs to make you feel good. It's not, don't go off and buy the big house if it doesn't float your boat. Don't go off and buy the big car if you feel nothing. I'm not a cars person. And so that wouldn't, elevate me. But there's things where I invest a lot of my money back into self-investment because it makes me feel good. It expands me. It expands my business. I love experiences. So I love being able to say yes to last minute things. And why don't we go away for the weekend and we'll fly business class? Absolutely. I love the freedom and flexibility to be able to do that. And then there's an element of my family. I want to take care of my mum and my dad. I want to take care of my in-laws. And I want to be that person that says, I will fly you here next week and I'll fly you business class and I will take you out to the Burj Al Arab and I'll show you these experiences and we will create the most amazing memories together. I want to be the person that does that. And so this is where it cancels out, that money's the root of all evil. And no, it's not. Money amplifies. Money's an energy. It's a frequency. And so you have to tune into that. And this is what I've learned over the years and I speak openly about it as well, because in the UK, people are very uncomfortable with it. Here, not so much. But I think it's okay to say that you want to make money. It's okay to say that you enjoy making more money. You enjoy spending money. That's okay, because you cannot have something if you don't have a good relationship with it. And you cannot have something for yourself that you resent for other people. So I see a lot of that. Oh, it's all right for them. I need to get better off financially. But, these people that have all of this, it is greed and it's too much. And there's not too much. There's enough abundance in this world for everyone. And if you do good with it and you have good intentions, there's no issue here. You have to have a good money mindset.
I completely agree with you. I also did a faith money mindset course a number of years ago.
Lovely.
And I remember it started off with going right to the beginning and understanding the scripts that were handed to you from day one.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't become at this age having all our hang-ups about money, whether they were positive or negative. They came from somewhere. It came from the comment that your grandmother might have made or your uncle did or that person down the road was doing.
Exactly.
And all of that shaped us, and we don't even know that it shaped us.
Yeah.
And we carry those scripts with us, not even realizing that, hang on, these lenses were shaped from somewhere that perhaps we need to unlearn.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that I think people should really explore, which is, what is their negative mindset around money and where did it come from?
Definitely. I think there's a lot of people as well that feel like they shouldn't want money because there's so many people in this world without money and so much worse off. And, my challenge to them is, by you shrinking and staying small, how are you fixing that problem? You could probably fix not all the problems, but you could definitely help by being bigger and making more money. And there's people that really don't have that option. They're not in that situation where they can create their own opportunities. But you shrinking and staying small, you might feel better about yourself, but you're never going to help the problem. So I love to challenge people with that, because I think that's what keeps a lot of people stuck, that I should be grateful for what I have. There's so many people that don't have this. Absolutely. You should be grateful, but that's not a sign to stop. It's not a sign to stay stagnant and stay where you are. It's a sign to elevate and actually channel into, well, what can I do about this? How can I give back? How can I help? And you're only going to get there by making more money, not by staying stuck.
I love that. Completely agree with that. So Angela, you are raising a little boy in Dubai.
I am.
13 years old, right?
Yes, he's 13.
So obviously he's being raised in circumstances which are very different to how you were raised.
Yeah.
What do you consciously wish that he learns about money and mindset that you didn't have growing up?
I think my job is done here. I honestly do. I feel like the pressure has been taken off me as a parent a little bit, because he is exposed to so much here. Different cultures, different beliefs, different opportunities, a healthier mindset. And, he was in school for 2 months and he came back and he said, Mum, we did vision boards today. And I was like, wow, that is just incredible. And I said, what was on your vision board? He said, I can't tell you, it's a secret. And I said, okay. But I just think, you know, that one thing alone, I just knew I'd made the right decision, because he's going down a very, very different path now. And even the different cultures that he's involved in, and he's educating me, you know, he's coming home, he's learned Arabic, and, you know, he understands about fasting, and he's respectful to his friends. And I just think this is incredible for him he's getting a completely different education now. And he also knows that if he wants opportunity, he's going to have to go out and get it. He's going to have to go out and work for it. But he's been exposed to a lot of success over here as well, which is getting his little mind working and thinking, oh, I would like some of that. I would like to experience that. And so for us, I feel like the UAE is actually doing a lot of the work for me, which I'm so grateful for. But it allows us to have those conversations at home, like the vision boards and, you know, the different cultures and the different opportunities. And even the children at school, he's like, you know, their dads are doing X, Y, and Z, and they travel a lot for work. And he's like, that's pretty cool. You know, I'd like to do that. And so it's inspiring him in ways that I never thought possible. So it's just incredible.
Oh, that's amazing. And I love that, you know, when we invest in ourselves and we improve ourselves, automatically we benefit the next generation as well.
Yeah.
Without us even actively, intentionally doing something, they just pick it up.
So true.
And I had the same experience in my 30s. I learned about vision boards, and the next thing I knew, I was doing it with my kids. So every year we do it in Ramadan. They make their really elaborate vision boards that my brain at that age couldn't even have fathomed that, wow, you could want this.
Yeah.
You could desire this. Your brain can go there, because my brain couldn't go there. And I love that once I've given myself permission to think like that, my children automatically have that permission as well.
Yeah, I agree. It's so lovely. It really is. So I'm very excited for his future, because like you say, that it's that ripple effect. And I hadn't really thought about that, just what you said before there. It's such a strange thing, because you don't think that those life choices and decisions and investments that you make, you know, have such a huge impact on your children and how they see things. So it's such an interesting perspective. But yeah, I'm excited for him. I think he's going to have a great little life over here, I think.
For sure. This is the place to make it.
It absolutely is.
So Angela, I want to close by asking you, if you could speak to the Angela who had hit rock bottom, scrambling to put food on the table, what would you like her to know?
I know we said at the beginning of the podcast that you made your last guest cry. You might make me cry now. Really simple, I would say, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And that's what I needed to hear. I just needed that certainty of things are going to get better. You are not going to have to live like this forever, because that's how it felt. I just didn't see a way out back then. I thought this was it now. This was how my life was going to be. And that terrified me. And I think the second thing is what we've covered today. You can change this. You know, you are in control, and it's okay to feel sad, and it's okay to cry, and it's okay to get up and give 10% one day, but 10% is better than 0%. Just give what you can, because that compounds and it all adds up and it takes you out the other side. Just give what you can, because we can't give 100% every day. Even me, I like to think that I'm very, you know, energetic and positive. There's days where I can't give 100%, and I'm okay with that. So in the dark days, if you can give 10%, just do it. You'll feel a little bit better. And these are the decisions that take you out of the situation that you're in right now. So yeah, I wish I'd heard that. You're going to be okay, and give what you can. Just do what you can. You can change this.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you so much.
So Angela, if somebody would like to work with you and take their business to the next level, how can they get in touch with you?
I always say Instagram and LinkedIn. I mean, Instagram, I practically live on there. It's like my dear diary, because I think it's so important for people to get to know who I am and understand my approach. because I do things very differently. So I'm available on Instagram and LinkedIn if people want to get in touch there. And I love having conversations. So even if people want to reach out, I'm more than happy to do that.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.